Hello, true believers, and welcome to another edition of BK's Bullets. Today, I will be giving you my review of 1998's direct-to-video Batman and Mr. Freeze SubZero. All right, so this is an old movie, guys, but I gotta say it was actually really well done, and I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. Before I get into the nitty gritty details, I want you guys to do me one quick favor. Make sure you subscribe to Brent's channel. Guy's doing some phenomenal stuff. He just released WandaVision episode number 7, his full review. You can check that out. And by the way, if you want to see anything that I have been up to on his channel, I will post links in the description below. So check all that great content out. So Batman and Mr. Freeze SubZero, a 1998 direct-to-video animated film. It's definitely mimicking the old 60s Batman, and I do see here, I'm looking at the Wikipedia article, that it is it's based on the Batman the Animated Series, so really old cars, very ancient technology, but still fun. Despite the fact that it wasn't in a 16 by 9 letterbox resolution, it was the old school square, which was fine. I gotta say though, I always watch things with subtitles on because I have a hard time hearing sometimes. I loved the subtitles in this. Whoever wrote the subtitles for this clearly did not care. While the text is fine, when two characters are interacting, the words are just fine. You see, the sound effects that they type in. It's like when Mr. Freeze uses his gun, all lowercase zap, just one zap. When there's an explosion, all lowercase boom, or sometimes boom boom. The grand finale is actually a triple boom boom boom, all lowercase. Just really made me laugh. I had a really good time with that. Subtitles aside, though, this was actually a really interesting film. Mr. Freeze, I think, is one of those villains who you want to root for because he's not evil just for evil's sake. He's not like a Joker who's just out to murder people, or Two-Face or whatever. His agenda is solely, albeit selfish, he's trying to save his wife. His wife has some issue. I'm not really sure what the medical issue is. I'm sure it's well known. It's not explained in this film, but she is frozen by Mr. Freeze as he works to find a cure. So she's in this cryogenic tube. Unfortunately, shenanigans ensue. The cryogenic tube is broken, and now she has a very limited time, despite the fact she's still in a coma throughout all this, by the way. She has a very limited time for him to find a cure, or she will die. He enlists the help of a doctor, Dr. Belson, who is sometimes good, sometimes bad in this movie. Sometimes he seems self-aware that what he's doing is wrong. And then at the end of the movie, he's taking pot shots at people. So I'm not really quite sure what to get out of him. But he tags along with Mr. Freeze because Mr. Freeze finds gold bars in the Arctic, of course. I mean, silly, who doesn't? And he's basically going to pay this doctor out of debt. This doctor made some horrible financial decisions, and Mr. Freeze is going to give him money to help complete this transplant. They realize they need a living person because all of the normal the normal organ donor list is so long. They need to find a living person. They're basically going to kill the living person and harvest their blood and organs and stuff to fix up Mr. Freeze's wife. And they stumble across Barbara Gordon, which is really a dumb idea. One, she's obviously a superhero in her own right, but it's the commissioner's wife. Of all the targets to go after, you're going to go after the police chief, not his wife, his daughter, the police chief's daughter. Do you not think he's going to send the entire Gotham force down your throat for his own daughter? He doesn't, by the way. So actually, that turned out to be a smart move. Essentially, they decide to take her to this secret oil rig off base where they're going to work on her and perform the surgery. She basically breaks out on her own, though. She doesn't really need Batman or Robin's help. And I'm going to get to those two clowns in a second. And I do use the word clown because they were pretty dumb this episode, I've got to admit. She pretty much single-handedly figures out how to get off this thing. And she's pretty much free and clear. And then Dumb and Dumber, Batman and Robin show up. Now, I love Batman and Robin. I'm joking a little bit here. But boy, are they depicted like morons in this movie. It's really, really bad. Robin's so much more than Batman. And maybe it's true to the animated series I did not watch. So if I am horribly wrong, please correct me in the comments below. But essentially, Robin is like just the sidekick who's like a yippy dog. Like, what do you think? What do you think we should do, boss? What do you think? So I counted at least 6 times. I lost count of the times that Robin said, "What?" Like, dumbstruck. Like, when he realizes what Mr. Freeze is up to, and Batman's like, "It's Mr. Freeze." Robin's like, "What?" And Batman's like, "Hey," when the oil derrick's about to explode, Batman's like, "Hey, go get the Batwing and get it ready, and we're gonna leave." And Robin's like, "Why?" I don't know. There's a couple scenes early on where Robin is on a date with Barbara before Mr. Freeze intervenes to kidnap her, which sets this whole plot into motion. And he is built just like Batman. He's just as wide as he is tall. He seems like a pretty capable fighter, but I don't know if it's his animation style or it was intentionally done to make it seem more realistic, but like this guy just doesn't seem that smart. I mean, of all the people Batman can pick to take under his wing to become Robin, he picks this guy. Like, this portrayal of him is horrendous. It really is really bad. I was not a fan. Maybe I'm being a little critical. It's definitely for children, so you can't have Robin and Batman be as tough as, no one can be as tough as Batman, I guess, but Robin just really kind of stumbles through this movie pretty poorly, actually quite a few times. The scene of the movie by far has to go to Robin when they're flying the Batwing and he jumps out of the Batwing. Now, this Benson guy is chasing Barbara Gordon with a pistol. He's trying to shoot her. And Batman flies the Batwing over. Robin's going to jump out and tackle Benson to save Barbara Gordon, who, like I said, was perfectly fine. She didn't need his help. He jumps down. It's a really cool scene because the animation really beautiful in this. You see the silhouette of him getting larger, and then he slams down on top of this Benson guy. And then what does he do? He checks Benson's pulse. Puts the 2 fingers on his neck, and he kind of nods like, did you think you were going to kill a guy, like, jumping out of a plane maybe 5 feet above him? Like, I get it, Robin. You're a pretty built guy, but, like, this is really the first thing you're going to do is check his pulse? Later on, Robin does get his revenge when I am proclaiming he kills Benson. When he's taking off in the Batwing, the thrust blows the actual landing pad down at such a force that crushes Benson in his crushes him in his boat, kills him. So I don't know where they were going with this movie, but I did have fun with it. I laughed, not just at the movie. I mean, it was pretty dopey, but I get it. It was for kids. Clearly, very short run time, very short attention span, very gee whiz kind of plot, very, very cut and dry. Did have a happy ending. Ultimately, Batman and his infinite money magically finds a donor, and Mrs. Freeze perfectly fine and healthy. And Mr. Freeze waddles off with his ice cast into the sunset with his 2 polar bears, and everybody lives happily ever after. I assume. We don't know what happens to the orphan kid. I didn't even talk about him. It's irrelevant. But I guess he's okay. Whatever. It doesn't matter. So, going back to a previous comment, though, and I'm all over the place on this because this movie is just, the more and more I think about it, there was some really dopey things about it. Batman doesn't really do a lot of action in this movie, which was really a disappointment. He doesn't. The most action he has, I think, is when he's running through the fire to go back and get Mr. Freeze, unsuccessful. But then running back, the way the explosions are going off, they did a really nice symmetry of light and dark. Really just almost completely silhouetted in black. His cape's blowing behind him as he's running. There's like flame ashes hitting on his shoulders. Really, really well done. But outside of that, not a lot of action, really. It was really the Barbara Gordon show, and I'm okay with that. I think she's a phenomenal character, and I would be interested in more stuff that she did, honestly, the way this was portrayed. It was almost like the writer said, okay, we have done a lot with Batman and Robin. We need to make them so inept that Barbara is going to be the star of the show, but we don't think she has enough star power to be the lead actress. So we're going to put Batman and Robin in there to kind of spice things up a little bit, but she's going to have 90% of the spoken lines. She's going to get all the action scenes. She's going to do all the fun stuff in this movie, not those two guys. Which, okay, I guess that's, the choice I wanted to go with. Do I recommend this movie? I do. I think it was fun. It's definitely a throwback to a very distinct animation style that really reminds me of early Saturday morning cartoons. Clearly, this was in 1998. I was looking at the Wikipedia article here. It says, while it was produced by Warner Brothers Animation, all the animation was actually done in South Korea, and it won an award for Best Home Animation. And I think it was, like I said, I think the animation was really pretty. A lot of attention to detail in shadows and silhouettes. Something I noticed that they did that as I try to become an aspiring artist of my own, starting to draw a lot more, I really pay a lot of attention to shadows because that really makes your image pop. All the characters have like a black outline around them. I believe Brent talked about this in one of his recent movie reviews. It was a Superman movie where he had like a black thing. Maybe it was just him talking to me personally on the phone, but there was almost like they did this beautiful art style and then they took all the characters and they just drew this big black thick line around a lot of them. And it made them pop in such a weird way. In like the old cartoons you watched when you were a kid, you knew what was going to be motion and what was a static image based on how vibrant it was. Think of like the background of like an old Looney Tunes cartoon. It was flat and boring. And then the characters up front, they were very bright, very vibrant. They did this as well, and then they put a black outline around those characters. It's an interesting art choice, but I think it works. And the way they use the shadows and the way they use the light really makes it a very distinct art style that I haven't seen yet in any of these other DC films that I have watched for Brent. And I do see here that it says it was a standalone sequel to Batman Mask of the Phantasm. And the art style is wildly different than that. Pretty in its own way, Mask of the Phantasm, but this was really pretty in its own way. And I'll be curious to see. I just randomly click these. I don't really do much of like pre-research on what I'm going to watch. I just figure something out. I'll be curious to see in other movies that took place around that era, the late 90s, early 2000s. I'll be curious to see when they got rid of that art style, because very clearly, as I've watched some of the more recent stuff, they don't adopt this. But I would encourage them to maybe consider to re-bring that back. If nothing else, I recommend it. I really do think you should watch this movie. Because it's fun. It is goofy, but it's fun, and it's beautiful. It really is. I think they do a really good job of making the action sequences largely believable, and it's a nice change of pace from Batman being the hero of every story. I think Robin got a bad shake a little bit. He really dumbed down, but Barbara Gordon, man, she can hold her own. She's tough. I would totally read or enjoy more content from her. She's a very capable fighter, and I think she was pitted up against two villains. One guy who wasn't really a villain, just a kind of a doctor, but a beefy look, big rip doctor, and Mr. Freeze. I think that was like a good fight for her, and it was fun to watch her kind of out with these guys, basically in a place where she hadn't been before, and figuring out how to break out of her handcuffs and sneak through. And all it was cool. I liked it. So, thumbs up for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a fun time watching it and a fun time making it with you guys. So leave some comments below. Make sure you subscribe. It's very, very important. And I'll be back again next week. We'll see what the old voodoo brings us next week. I have a few that I really want to watch, so maybe we'll get to those, but who knows? find out next week. Same bat place, same bat channel. With that, I am closing out this video. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, I will see you guys in the funny pages.